This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
White trash fight all through the night, deep in the heart of Texas. The trailer park is nice and dark, deep in the heart of Texas. Cat drinks his brew and he spits his chew, deep in the heart of Texas. The TV blares but no one cares, deep in the heart of Texas. Here we go!
Hey, everybody, welcome to a King of the Hill podcast. I am Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
Rusty, we are at season 4, episode 14. This one's called High Anxiety. It's a part 2 of the first one that was called Hanky Panky.
This one is one of my favorite episodes because as a stoner, it is funny to see our patriarch here indulging in the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, I thought of you whenever I watched this.
Yeah, no, I like this episode. This is one of my favorite episodes because it's funny, you know, his reaction to him, you know, him hitting it. He acts like it's the end of the world, you know.
Okay, so since this is a part 2, what we get before our No Bell, No Yell and our credits and everything is we get this. Oh, you are having an affair with their husband.
That's terrible.
God, I love it.
There we go. I love it, man.
I went ahead and left the theme
gives
in.
me anxiety now.
Yeah. I went ahead and left the theme in just because I
theme.
like it. We don't ever play the
Gives
theme.
me slight anxiety now. Though.
What?
The theme song?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
I've watched so much of it in the last year and a half. I've consumed more King of the Hill than I probably did in the first chunk of me actually watching it.
Yeah.
So I watch an episode probably like, you know, that's all I watch all week is the one episode.
All right, so we got our continuation, and once again I say this is season 4, episode 14, High Anxiety Part 2.
Part 2, there was not a part 1.
There wasn't a High Anxiety Part 1, and there was not a Hanky Panky Part 2. So again, we get No Bell, No Yell. We open up at Debbie's apartment with Gail on the laptop, and Hank is standing there, and he's obviously frustrated. He says, how long does it take Debbie to throw in a load of laundry? I really need to talk to her. And then Gail, she should be right up. Debbie said you two were going to, hey.
Hey.
Hank says, no, we were not. It was a trick. And then Gail, this guy's just super clueless. Is $300 too much for a Hot Wheels VW Purple Evil Weevil? And Hank's just like, oh, no. And he goes, yeah, I could use one. He sees Gail puffing off his what he thinks is a cigarette.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I could use one too. And he while he's getting the cigarettes out of his pocket, he goes to light with the Zippo that he had been given that says HRH on it.
HRH, yeah. And Rutherford.
Right, and it won't light. And so he goes, oh, dang it, when the Zippo won't work. And Gail hands his joint to what we now know as a joint to Hank. Because
that's a funny-looking cigarette.
Yeah, what do you call it when you put one to
pump?
Yeah. So
pumping, I think is what
like
you call
it. Like a pump or a punk or something like that. Yeah, I know punks are what you use to light firecrackers. Like those things they give out for free at a firecracker stand.
Yeah.
We used to call them punks.
Like that, punk or I don't know. I really don't know what the vernacular for that is. I guarantee there's like a slang.
Oh, there's got to be a slang thing for it.
And I probably used to know it at one point, but I mean, we used to call it monkey fucking.
Monkey fucking.
Can I monkey fuck my cigarette off of yours kind of thing? That was like a slang term we had for it. But
that seems a little extreme.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're a teenager.
Monkey fucking.
Teenager smoking cigarettes. You're trying to be edgy.
Sure.
If you're already smoking cigarettes, you're trying to be edgy anyway.
So I went to, speaking of drugs and things like that, I went to a concert last night.
Where
went to see Danzig.
Oh, wow, Danzig.
At the Toyota Center in Dallas. So the first thing I texted my wife was that Satan had gone corporate. Because, I mean, it's a Toyota Center, right? I mean, you get the big commercials up on the thing or whatever.
You're not like some back alley pub somewhere listening to Danzig.
No. He sells out. You know how old Danzig is at this point?
Probably like 70.
He's 68 years old, and that sucker can just move. I mean,
well, that's the thing is some people like wonder why Keith Richards is so healthy.
Yeah.
And all those guys, and Mick Jagger and stuff, it's because they've been physically active
for their
entire careers. They've toured for 45, 50 years.
But they've also put a lot of stuff in their bodies. You know,
they have.
That should counteract that.
But I think because a lot of them, if you listen to how they live, they all live really holistic and they all eat really healthy and they have these millionaire diets. So they have chefs.
Well, that's true. They have somebody who give them the best food. And
they go to the doctor. The doctor says, "Okay, here's the best diet for your body type." Because
they're probably not eating Cheetos all the time like me.
Like that's why diets don't work for everybody. Because people are like, "Oh, well, that diet didn't work for me." It's because your body's chemical makeup is different than the next person's. That's why they tell you to go to a nutritionist and let them give you a diet because they could give you a diet catered to your blood.
Well, we were sitting there. There were 3 bands before Danzig, right?
Yeah.
And one of them was a satanic doo-wop band.
It
was the weirdest thing in the world. And I think they were lip syncing. Okay. But anyway, as we're sitting there, these 2 guys come up behind us and they're just screaming at each other. They're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
But they're screaming at each other. Talking. No, I'm not. They're screaming. They're not even talking loud. They're just like, blah, blah, you know. And so we were going to move or whatever. I thought about buying them a couple of beers just so I could get them out of the way or something, you know, just trying to not start a fight or whatever.
Here you go. Here's 2 beers. Go fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before Danzig came on, we moved down and just kind of got away from them. And then it was right before the encore. One of them comes stumbling up. And when I say stumbling, he was 6 sheets to the wind, not 3.
Like a cannonball.
He's coming in there and he's just flopping around, you know, and all this stuff. And where do you think he lands?
On you.
Oh, he lands on me. Yeah, he gives me a big old hug and tells me how much he loves me.
Oh, damn.
While the security's chasing him towards me.
Yeah. That's funny.
It was crazy. Yeah, those guys were standing back there behind us saying, yeah, the last time I did acid or what, you know, and then they would say, but I told my buddy Casey that it was like listening to a bunch of virgins talking about having sex. You know, it was like you could tell that this shit's all made up.
Yeah, they don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, you know, heroin, the thing it does is it drops your blood sugar. Dude, you didn't do heroin. What are you talking about? Heroin. Okay, so anyway.
He might have stole one of his grandma's, like, hydrocodones or something.
He's like, oh, it's heroin. Yeah. It's from the poppy. It's the same thing. Okay, so now back to our regularly scheduled show. So his Zippo's not working. He asks Gail if he can get a light off of his. He goes, that's a funny-looking cigarette. And he said, you roll it yourself? The guy says, yeah. Or Gail says, yeah. And he goes, wow, you got a weak flame on this thing. But he starts puffing on it to get the if you've ever smoked
this is one of my favorite scenes in King of the Hill ever. He's sitting there puffing off it. He goes, "Is this one of them clove cigarettes?"
Well, he puffs it, you know, to get the fire started in it again. Yeah, and he doesn't realize that he's smoking weed. He goes, "This one of them clove cigarettes?" He goes, "No, man, that's a Chronic from Mexico."
And he's like, damn NAFTA. That's the funniest weed joke. That's the funniest weed joke on any primetime adult comedy show.
He says it's clearly inferior tobacco. Yeah. And then Gail gets up and he goes, so does your wife party too? Hank says, party? We throw a party for 4th of July and Labor Day. Gail's like, no, I mean party. You know, get high, get stoned. And then Hank it hits him and he's just, oh!
That must be like a time and place kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody says, Hey man, do you want to party?
Does your wife party?
Yeah,
that's even worse.
That is worse. If you ask another man if his wife parties, you're
that's what
probably
I'm saying.
Punched.
That's even worse. Oh, that's the other thing. The guys behind us, as they were screaming at each other, one of them said, "Tonight's a win-win for me because the wife's at home making banana bread, and I'm gonna get a hand job." I was like, "It's quite a night you got planned
banana bread and a hand job.
Bread and a hand job." Yeah.
I mean,
it's a hell of a night.
I can't argue with that at all.
I think that
after Danzig, banana bread and a hand job. You couldn't top it off any better.
That's a great shirt. If you just had a shirt that said banana bread and a hand job,
and then it had Danzig,
Danzig
on there.
Yeah. Anyway, I told Casey, I was like, yeah, I think he can still have the banana bread when he gets home, but I think the whiskey dick's going to get him as far as the hand job goes. Yeah. All right, so now we're with the sheriff who's at the crime scene. They've got it all taped off. This is behind Peggy's Sugarfoot. We're
at Peggy's Sugarfoot. Yeah. She took it over.
He is talking to Peggy and Luann, and he says, that barbecue smells yummy, Ms. Hill. Now, you heard the gunshot at 6:45, was it? And he's, like, taking notes. Peggy's like, that is correct, Sheriff. Mm-hmm. And he says, you discovered the body at 6:47? She goes, most of it, yes. Most of it?
Yeah.
Just the leg? He says, so let me get this straight. Debbie was Mr. Strickland's mistress, and her murdered body was found at the same place where Mr. Strickland and his wife just got done reconciling their differences. She says, my husband Hank set that up. Well, the reconciliation, not the murder.
Yeah. So that's, I just wanted to go ahead and...
The sheriff?
No. I just wanted to hit the sheriff, the Texas Ranger or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what this is, right?
This is the sheriff.
Okay, this
not
is
the Texas Ranger.
Yet.
Yeah, the Ranger comes in a minute. Okay, now we
I could go ahead and do the sheriff too. Yeah. I've got his voice actor here, so sorry about that. Mac Davis.
Like the singer Mac Davis?
The singer Mac Davis. Wow. I believe that's who that is.
Yeah, he was big in the 70s.
Yeah,
Mac Davis was always on like
that's
Carson or something. Or a variety show or whatever.
Country western guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was like poppy western. Yeah.
It's Hard to Be Humble. Stop and Smell the Roses album.
Stop and Smell the Roses is probably his most famous one.
That's the most famous.
Well, Hard to Be Humble, I guess also. He had a short run career, but he was around for a good chunk.
This
of the
is
70s.
Oh wow, okay, well, this is just cool music history for me because I'm a big.
Go for it.
My mom's a huge Elvis fan. Memories in the Ghetto, Don't Cry Daddy. A Little Less Conversation.
He wrote in the Ghetto?
Wrote those.
Oh, wow.
He wrote In the Ghetto.
That's
and
amazing.
A Little Less Conversation. Yeah. A lot more.
You know what I didn't realize?
That's nuts.
And
that's
please.
You know that song A Little Less Conversation?
Yeah.
Is
I
think
the
it's
remix.
number one. It is. It's the
I like that remix.
There was an album that came out in the UK. It was a UK remix album that put out a bunch of his music, redid his music. Yeah. And
that one's in my rotation.
That's the number one. I think that's his number one album on Spotify.
I don't doubt that.
His most listened to. The JXL, I think is what it is.
And nobody kill me when I say this, but I did not realize, because I was never a big Danzig fan or anything. Yeah. I didn't realize he started the Misfits, and I don't know, Necra something, but I didn't realize he was even in the Misfits. I don't know.
You don't know?
But he couldn't get along with them, and so he broke it up and went on his own.
Went on his own and did Danzig. Yeah.
He's 5'3".
It's different music though, isn't it? Isn't it a different style? Isn't it a different sound?
5'3".
Yeah, he's 5'3".
He's a tiny little boy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's kind of jacked, but he's a tiny little man.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
5'3". Yeah, it's a little bit different. Like, Misfits was always kind of. It was almost like the dude. Yeah, a little bit of that. And Danzig's more
like alternative.
Yeah, and the first bands were like Hail Satan, Hail, all of that stuff.
Yeah. No,
and it was fine
because their logo is that like
his logo is that big skull,
that big skull.
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing, guys behind us. He goes, yeah, they're retiring that skull after this tour. And
like it's a professional basketball player's jersey or something.
I was like,
they're retiring that skull after this.
He goes, did you know? That's a Bullwinkle skull. No, it's not, man. That's not Bullwinkle.
That's not Bullwinkle.
What are you talking?
They're just saying stuff.
Bullwinkle skull.
You should have recorded that. That would have been great.
That would have been fantastic. Okay, so now we're back at Debbie's apartment. Hank, of course, is coughing. Gail comes in and says, check you out. What are you doing? Hank is over the toilet trying to vomit. I'm inducing vomit. And he says, dude, you only had one hit, which if you've ever smoked pot, I mean, that first hit, not much. It don't get you a whole hell of a lot. But he's like coughing and gagging.
I mean, I imagine somebody that doesn't smoke like Hank, it probably.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it
one
does
hit to get him feeling
yeah.
weird, if nothing else. And it'd probably scare the hell out of you if you're not wanting it or expecting it.
But throughout this,
it's hilarious.
We never really see Hank high.
You never really
he gets a little
high.
paranoid, but I think that's just him being paranoid.
I don't think he gets
I don't think
like
it's
high.
him being high.
He's just a little freaked out by the incident.
So
which,
he's,
it's not cool to do that to somebody. Like,
as he's
the fact that guy handed it to him and didn't tell him, hey, that's not a cigarette.
Yeah.
That's a jackass.
Well,
move
but you could smell it
reality.
too, I would imagine, right?
Well, if you know what it smells like, it could, like you said, oh, is this a clove
inferior
cigarette?
tobacco.
It could just smell like a clove cigarette.
So as he's
That's
down,
what I used to tell my little brother when I was smoking weed. I used to just tell him, it's just cheap cigarettes. I couldn't afford my usual cigarette. Oh, it's just a cheap.
those Indian cigarettes.
Because he would smell it in my room.
Yeah.
My mom's downstairs. They can't smell it.
Sure.
They smoke cigarettes too, so they didn't really have like that. All they smell is
You had a
cigarettes.
cover.
As
Yeah.
long as the cigarette was burning, they didn't
Yeah.
really. That's all they
Yeah.
smelled was a cigarette. So my brother would smell the weed, and he would come in there. Are you in here smoking the Goofy Goober?
Goofy
And
Goober.
I would tell him, nah, I'm just smoking these cheap cigarettes.
That's fantastic. Okay, so as he's down there trying to induce vomit, as he says, the lighter, the HRH lighter, falls out of his pocket next to the toilet.
Lens in the room. Puts him there. Puts him at the location.
That's right. He gets up. He looks in the mirror and he says, "Oh no, my eyes are turning bloodshot. I'm going on a trip. I look like I'm doped out of my gourd."
just his language is funny here, because that's the kind of thing that you would hear some old conservative white person say about being high. Oh, you look like you're doped out of your gourd, son.
Doped out of my gourd. He comes down the steps of Casa Linda. He gets in the truck and he tries to get the key in, and he goes,
too high to drive.
Too high to drive. And so he gets out and he's like up against the wall, like he's sneaking around. He dives into the bushes and he just goes, "Oh, gotta sleep this off." it's like he's smoked the whole thing or whatever. Now we're back at the dumpster at Sugarfoot's where Debbie was found, and the sheriff says, "Found this Italian 12 gauge under the body, Ms. Liz. I think I got my first suspect." He goes, "I could send that up to Dallas, have my boys run it for prints." And then you see the Texas Rangers start to stroll in, right?
Yeah, okay.
And he does look like the guy from Walker, Texas Ranger. Is it the same guy?
Phil Lamar.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the same guy or not.
Phil Lamar is...
That's who I assumed it was, though.
Phil Lamar is he's an African-American actor who has done... he was in... Oh, hell, hold on. Let me pull up his page real fast. He was in a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of voice. He was in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Samurai Jack. He's did Mad TV.
Okay.
Hermes Conrad in Futurama.
Oh, okay. So he's Hermes.
He's the Jamaican guy in that. And then...
But he wasn't the guy on Walker?
He is Samurai Jack.
Oh. Oh, okay.
He is the voice of Samurai Jack.
I would take some more Samurai Jack any day.
Yeah, he was in Craig of the Creek. I don't know if you heard that. He was in Family Guy. As a bunch of just
so he's mostly a voiceover
voices.
guy.
From what I see, he's done mostly just voice stuff. Central Park, Star Trek Lower Decks, The Loud House, Young
Central
Justice.
Park is one of those that I was really disappointed in.
Pete the Cat. I've never heard of that. But yeah, he is not just a voice actor. He did Bless the Hearts, which is related to King of the Hill, which is a King of the Hill adjacent thing.
So you see him.
He's in a lot of stuff.
So you see him start to stroll in. He strolls in from the dark, and he's got his cowboy hat on.
Hold on just 1 second, too, before you continue.
Yeah.
So the rating for this show, ratings, this is something that Artie added in here. I wanted to get in.
What's up, Artie?
So on Adult Swim, the initial rating whenever Adult Swim aired this, it was TV 14. And that was for references to the marijuana and the suicide.
Sure.
And most cable guides give it a PG, like a cable guide or whatever gives it PG for suggestive dialogue.
Right.
And there was one airing that accidentally gave it a TVMA rating in the United States. But the episode airing in Australia and New Zealand, they were given an M rating.
Oh, wow.
Based on the drugs, guns, and accidental death.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting to add in. You
think anybody pays any attention to any of those?
Those things.
I never do.
I never do. Even as a parent, I don't really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I watch whatever it is.
By the way, a lot of kids there last night with the Satan shirts
with
on.
the Satan
shirts. Little kids.
Little
I mean,
kids.
little kids.
Little kids.
Yeah, like 8-year-olds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Blood sacrifice. But
yeah. Adrenochrome, all that stuff. Pizza parlors.
Eating the back of their brains.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's just, now as a parent, if it says M or something, I'll screen it first. Because generally it might not be anything but a few cuss words. Well, maybe like maybe a little bit of gore, but like a certain age, that stuff.
These days also includes smoking, which is just the weirdest thing to me. Like that they have to warn me that somebody's going to be smoking.
Because
I mean, it's not illegal.
They changed the laws again too for something, because I see these they got these at the convenience stores. They have these new signs on the front doors talking about there is no safe cigarette. All cigarettes are terrible.
That's
something
crazy,
like,
man.
Well, it's crazier in Europe. When I was in Europe, they have on their cigarette packs.
Yeah, they've got those gross pictures and the
pictures
giant black
of what
warning.
It looks like to go through, have bad lungs, or they'll show somebody with a trach or something like that. It's real graphic.
It's rough.
And people still are, they're in the store.
They still do it, yeah. The Texas Ranger comes strolling in. Sheriff's like, oh, who in the hell called in the Texas Rangers? And the Texas, yeah, where is he?
Yeah,
and then
maybe he doesn't show up because he's too adjacent to it. Also, he kind of just calls it in and says, "Come on, dang old, you better have to go
my damn old Debbie in the trash can."
Yeah.
And the Texas Ranger finally speaks up. He goes, "Mrs. Peggy Hill, restaurateur." Peggy's over there behind the tape, just screaming at him. I love your show. I love that Walker.
yeah. Walker, the Texas Ranger.
So now we're back in the bushes with Hank. He kind of comes to and he goes, how long was I sleeping? Why am I running? Oh, God, I'm talking to myself, because he gets up and just takes off, starts running. Yeah, he's going to run home.
He's crazy.
He goes, oh, God, I'm talking to myself. This is a side effect of the marijuana poisoning. So he has to run by Sugarfoot's, because if you remember her apartment, you could see out the window and see Sugarfoot's.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. She was right there behind Sugarfoot's.
And
because as Buck Strickland puts it, I like to hump and I like to eat, and I don't like to drive.
That's right.
Yeah.
And as he's running by with kind of his hand over his face when he sees him.
He's smart, though, because he's keeping himself from getting DWIs and DUIs, because I'm sure he drinks at Sugarfoot's.
Well, Bobby's over there screaming. He goes, Dad, the police are looking for you.
Oh,
There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah, there is nothing worse.
And he goes, oh, no, Debbie's hippie roommate turned me in for smoking narcotics. And then you hear Peggy, Hank! She just screaming for him.
I hate that noise, too.
Oh. Now we transition to a few minutes later, and the coroner is taking away the body. And Hank says, Debbie's dead? I was just in her. I just talked to her at work. Peggy says, oh, it was awful. I saw her lying there, and oh, Hank. And then she smells Hank. She goes, honey, you reek.
Hell yeah.
He says, too much time near the propane tanks today. Well, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So the sheriff, Mr. Hill, I'm sorry, this is the Texas Ranger. He goes, I'm Lester Payton with the Texas Rangers. Hank says, nice to meet you. And then the sheriff comes up. Mind if I cut in, Peyton? This is my dance. Now, Mr. Hill, I have some questions. Hank, very nervous, is like, I'm sorry. I lost a close friend and a valued tank wipe today. I got to go home right now. Peggy, you'll need to drive. I'm in mourning.
I'm in mourning.
All right, so the next day we're in the alley with all the guys. And Dale starts it with, that coroner in Heimlich County will get to the bottom of this. He's a good man. He did the autopsies on 2 of my gun club buddies last year. Hank says, you don't think the police will want to run a drug test on Debbie's coworkers, do you? Because, he's super worried that somebody's going to find out.
Super worried. I would be worried, too, if I was him, because it puts him in the range of suspect. Even though he didn't do it, it still puts him in the scope.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to listen to it. He's got to sit down and be talked to,
This is one of my favorite exchanges in this episode. Dale says, now that you mention it, I'm positive they will. They'll drug test everyone in Arlen. The price for a bag of clean urine will double. And then Bill, what do you think will happen to the price of poo-poo? It's just the stupidest thing to ask.
And then Dale goes, unchanged.
Yeah. He's a stock market guy, but just for pee and poop. All right, so now we're at Strickland. Everybody's kind of gathered around Debbie's desk. They see a whole bunch of flowers and pictures of Debbie on her desk and stuff. It's almost like a little shrine.
Yeah,
shrine like you see on the side of the road when somebody has a wreck that kills them or whatever. Hank says Debbie brought those flowers just before she died. And then you hear the door open, and Miss Liz and Buck are standing there at the door. Miss Liz, attention, everybody. Now that there's no one left at work for my husband to diddle, I've allowed him to return. Buck Strickland.
Whoa.
Buck, he lays into it. Thank you. Now, I ain't a stupid man. I heard the rumors. I know that I got some fingers pointing at me, but I'm giving y'all the Buck Strickland guarantee that I didn't kill that pretty girl. I want to catch the murderer more than anything. So if you have any information for the police, why don't you just come and see me first, and we can discuss the best way of handling that. Back to work, old top. And he pats Hank on the side, but then he goes in the back and rips Hank's name tag, which is stitched into his jacket, rips it off and takes it with him. So there's some nefarious shit going on.
Yeah, he's crazy.
So now we're back at the Hill house. Hank is messing with the washer and the dryer in the garage, and Lady Bird's laying there right next to him. He goes, all right, Lady Bird, I washed this shirt 12 times. And then he smells it, and he goes, what do you think, girl? Can you still smell the Mary Jane? And literally, Lady Bird doesn't pick up her head or anything. She just goes, she just, that's it, little sniff. He goes, oh, no. He's just
about to freak out, burn the shirt.
Yeah. And then you see Hank come around out of the garage. Peggy's over there planting some plants or something, and he's got his other shirt under his shirt.
Yeah.
He's sneaking it out,
Yeah, he's being odd.
And he puts it in the damn grill, sets it on fire, like he's burning the shirt.
And then the cop walks up as he's burning the shirt.
Well, Luann comes running out and goes, Uncle Hank, Sheriff Mumford is here. He comes in and he goes, afternoon, Hank, what you cooking? Nothing. Well, my eyesight ain't what it used to be, but that's some kind of smoke coming out of there. Yeah, that's burgers. Strange smelling burgers. What kind of herbs you putting in there? In his head, Hank thinks, herbs. Oh, God, that's street talk for marijuana. Sheriff says, Hank, I spent the day gathering evidence over at Casa Linda Singles' apartment, and I just thought you might want to know you are now a suspect. And Hank says, oh, no. He goes, in the murder of Debbie Grund.
In the murder of Debbie Grund. Yeah, like he says it.
Hank is just, this is the most surprised I've ever seen Hank. He's like, oh, God. And then we get to our first break, and we'll take that one there, and we will be right back. Let me tell you, Rusty, eating healthy used to be a struggle for me, but that was before I discovered the BlendJet 2 portable blender.
The BlendJet 2.
Now when fast food temptation strikes, I just blend up a delicious and nutritious protein shaker smoothie. They gave us a whole bunch of those little packages that came with the blender.
Yeah.
And there's some really good flavors in there. There's some like that matcha thing.
The green matcha?
Yeah, those are pretty damn good. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up smoothies at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. Maybe a human thumb. Don't put your thumb in it. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15-plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C, which has saved us all. There's nothing worse than turning that USB thing over and over and over and over, and then finally finding how it plugs in,
Oh, yeah, I don't like that either.
USB-C
saved us all.
Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap, and you're good to go. There's 30-plus colors and patterns to choose from. There's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. We have a pink one? Lavender. I think ours is lavender.
Mine is the Toy Story Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the Pizza Planet one.
Ooh, that one. Yeah. They've got some really cool colors, but I really like the patterns. I know one of the people here got one that looks like Woody the Sheriff.
Is there a code with them?
There is a code. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. Glab it today.
Glibbity glob.
And when you do glab it, make sure you use the promo code
BWAAA12.
That's to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code
BWAAA12
to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever.
Blendjet 2, formerly known as Blendjet.
Hey, everyone. It's me, your puzzle-loving pal. Did you know I was a puzzle-loving pal?
I didn't know you were a puzzle-loving pal.
I got to tell you about my latest obsession. It's Wongo puzzles. These things are the real deal. They are high quality, handcrafted, and perfect for anyone who loves a good challenge but doesn't want to dedicate their entire kitchen table to puzzles for a week. Trust me, I have been there. I will tell you this, my parents, they're very old and decrepit, and they do puzzles all the damn time.
Yeah.
Like there's always a table that has like an unfinished puzzle. Yeah, it's either that or, I don't know.
Die.
feel your bones. So these puzzles, these Wongo puzzles, they are 100% wooden. They'll last forever. Each piece is hand-drawn. Just think about that for a second. Each piece is hand-drawn, so no two pieces are the same, and you'll discover some fun whimsy pieces as you work through it.
Whimsy.
They come in a custom wooden box, which is perfect for storage and gifting. Before we started doing this, I didn't realize how many people I know already have these Wongo puzzles. I mean, they're apparently pretty.
You can't go wherever Juan go.
With stunning designs and unique shapes, Wongo puzzles are a cut above the rest. I loved doing the snow globe puzzle myself. It was great to pull out a puzzle and be done in a night and not have it on the table for a week. So what are you waiting for? Let's go to Wongo Puzzles, WONGO puzzles.com, and pick a puzzle today. And be sure to use the promo code
BWAAA
for 10% off your order. It's the most fun you'll have with a puzzle, guaranteed, or your money back. Go to WONGO puzzles.com and use your code
BWAAA
to get 10% off your order and get puzzling right now. All right, and we are back. Now we are with the hills in their bed, which seems to be a thing that happens in every episode at this point. I never realized how much time they spent in bed. Hank says, this goes without saying, Peggy, but I'm not guilty. Peggy says, of course I know you didn't kill anyone, but you know what I do not understand? The sheriff said that you had a motive, and it concerned your relationship with Miss Liz. He kept using that phrase, relationship with Miss Liz. Relationship with Miss Liz.
And that's the thing that I really don't like about Peggy is that she should know at this point in her marriage, she should be comfortable.
Hank is the last one.
Yeah, well, even if he wasn't the last one, she's been with the guy as long as she's been with him. She should his word should be his word.
That's
Hank
true.
Doesn't do anything.
She should appreciate
a good man. And
yeah.
I feel like when she, and it's okay to be a little skeptical, about it, but this is at the height of the nuclear family in the early 90s. You know what I mean? So. She should be
so she's freaking out about the phrase relationship with Miss Liz. Hank says, well, he may be referring to the time I went out to fraudulent propane emergency at Miss Strickland's, and, she was in a kimono, and she wanted me to service her accessories, not the propane. Peggy's like, oh, okie dokie. Well, now that makes some sense. Miss Strickland was coming on to you, so you killed Debbie. Buck goes back to Miss Liz, and Miss Liz stops bothering you. Hank says, have you been reading those rabbi mysteries again? I don't know what that means, but that's great.
What it means is there's a series of popular mystery novels by a guy named Harry Kuhlman.
Okay.
And it was an amateur sleuth rabbi named David Small.
Oh.
There was 12 books between 64 and 96, and then there was a short-lived TV series called Lanigan's Rabbi. If you've ever heard of that.
Nope.
I've never heard of that one either.
Nope. I mean, I'm nothing against it, but I don't really seek out rabbi entertainment.
I don't
rabbi-based entertainment.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what I have been doing, though?
What's that?
I'm getting ChatGPT to create a cult.
Oh, that's awesome.
Write all the tenets of the cult.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. When you pay for ChatGPT, it is amazing.
Oh, yeah. The extra features and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
It's something else. Okay. We'll talk more about that later. But she goes, oh, okie dokie. Well, now that makes sense. Miss Strickland was coming on to you, so you killed Debbie. I mean, it's just part of one sentence,
Yeah.
Buck goes back to Ms. Liz, and Ms. Liz stops bothering you. Hank says, have you been reading those rabbi mysteries again? She goes, they do hold up. Now, if I may be an advocate of the devil, that sounds like a strange phrase.
Devil's advocate. Yeah, that's a weird way to say it.
Let's combine your motive with the fact that you have no alibi for 6:45 p.m. Oh, and that the sheriff called earlier. He said they found your Strickland name patch in the bushes behind Peggy Sugarfoot's. He goes, what? I don't remember losing my Hank patch. She goes, well, you didn't lose it. He said it had been torn off, as in a struggle. Hank crawls out of the bed. He goes over there. He gets his jacket, and he sees that the patch is gone, which I don't understand how he didn't see that before, but whatever. Really. He goes, oh. Peggy says, so, Hank, after saying that he killed her, after saying all the things she said, she goes, so, Hank, my question to you is, why did you not tell me that Miss Liz made a pass at you? I mean, that's the whole thing she's worried about.
She don't care about him killing somebody or nothing. It's just and that shows you that Peggy would turn a blind eye if Hank killed somebody.
All right, so this is the next day. We're at Tom Landry Middle School, and Hank has gone in to talk to the middle school drug counselor. Because that's the only person he knows that deals with drugs, right? And there's this drug posters all over the wall, like just don't do it or whatever. A cat that's high that somebody's kicking into the bushes or something. I don't know. So Hank says, so I was wondering if the kids who were hopped up on drugs could do things they wouldn't remember when they, hopped back down. Drug counselor goes, absolutely, Mr. Jones. So he's giving him a fake name, even though his kid goes there and everybody's going to know him. He goes, so my son, who will be attending Arlen High in a couple of years, God willing, he could get baked and leave his name tag in some bushes somewhere and then not remember. That's a very specific.
Super specific.
Thing, Hank. The guy says, yeah. We call that blacking out. Heck, I was in prison with a guy who was doing life for murder, and he didn't even remember committing. Hank says, so someone could take dope, black out in a field and kill a coworker? The guy says coworker,
cab driver, prostitute.
Doesn't matter.
That's a T-shirt. That is a T-shirt. Coworker, cab driver, prostitute.
Well, you see those that are in the block letters for like a basketball team or something. Like the Spurs one always said Timmy and Manu and whatever. This one was just being that same thing. Coworker, cab driver, prostitute. It doesn't matter who. We
gotta go through each episode and pick a piece of.
There's so many shirts.
There's so many shirts.
Okay, Hank is super shocked by what he said. Now we're back at Peggy's Sugarfoot, and Hank is he's behind Sugarfoot's, and he's bought a giant bag of sand, like that play sand that you buy at Home Depot or whatever. And he's trying to see if it'll jog his memory of taking Debbie's body and throwing it into the dumpster.
Yeah.
So he's even doubting himself, because of the marijuana.
The marijuana.
He says, all right, this is about what Debbie weighed. Does this seem familiar? Maybe. And then a car comes up. It's Buck. He gets out. Evening, Hank. What you busying yourself with there? Hank says, just throwing out some expired sand. Expired sand. He goes, garbage cans are full at home. Buck, whatever. We need to talk. Let's take a ride in your truck. He goes, where to, sir? The quarry. It's deserted this time of night. Nobody will bother us. That's sketchy as shit right there. Buck and as they're driving out there, Buck sneaks a shotgun shell into Hank's seat of his truck.
Yeah.
Which, man, Buck, you just flipping on the guy that loves you so much.
Not only loves you so much, you can attribute some of your successes to his hard work.
If Hank wasn't there, Strickland wouldn't be what it is.
No,
there's no way.
I don't know. Yeah.
So we're finally at the quarry. They get to the quarry, and Hank says they're both standing out there. It looks like a scene from like Breaking Bad or something, where one guy's got the other guy out there, and one of them's going to kill the other one or something. He goes, Mr. Strickland, sir, I want you to know that that I don't think I killed Debbie. Buck says, I cared for that gal, Hank. Hank says, so if you've taken me out here to kill me in retribution, I believe that would be premature.
Yeah.
Buck,
you fooled around with Debbie on top.
Well, Buck turns around and lifts his shirt, and you can see he's got a tape recorder taped to him. And so he starts it, and he goes, I know you fooled around with Debbie, old top. Hank says, no, not true. I rebuffed. He goes, but you were angry at her? Yes. Louder. He goes, yes, I was angry. Debbie threatened to tell my wife that we had sexual relations. And then Buck just like, okay, Hank, I think I got all I need. Holy shit, Buck.
That's crazy. That's just rough. Sound bites. That's not even a conversation. That's just sound bites.
So We see Hank pull up at home, and he finds the 12-gauge shell in his truck, and he's just like, oh, my God. Next thing we see is a car pulls up to the Heimlich County Sheriff's Department. We see Buck behind the wheel, and he's got an envelope that he puts the tape into, and he seals it, and on the front of the envelope it says, search Hank's truck. And he throws the envelope at the front door of the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Buck's a turd.
Jackass.
So now we're back at at Hank's house. He's gone straight to Bobby's room. He and Bobby are sitting on the bed like they always are when there's touching
something
moments.
Going on. Yeah.
I want you to promise me you won't ever do drugs, Bobby. Bobby's like, I promise. He goes, a promise means nothing when a junkie tricks you into smoking a joint when you think it's a cigarette, which you shouldn't smoke either. Now promise me, Bobby. Bobby says, okay, I promise. He just puts his head down and goes, promises mean nothing. Bobby says, look, Dad, I'm not going to use drugs because drugs are for losers, and I'd never want to disappoint you. Plus, I want to be the first chubby comic to live past 35.
Yikes.
That's a hell of a plan.
That's a tough one, yeah.
All right, this is the next day.
And that's like a hard joke, too, because that's like
it's a tough one.
Chris Farley only died in, 96? This is only like 3-4 years after Chris Farley died?
And that makes me wonder about the reboot, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, is he going to be a chubby comic? So next day, Hank is on his riding lawnmower, and he's riding, and he rides past the back porch, and the sheriff and Peggy are both there, and they're both kind of waving at him. He goes, afternoon, Hank. He gets off, and he's like, oh, hi, Sheriff. Any leads on the murder that don't point in my direction? You couldn't make yourself more obvious, Hank.
Yeah, I know. It's just terrible. He's not meaning to, but it does look god-awful.
Well, he's just such an innocent guy, honestly.
Yeah, he's that innocent. Are you pointing in any other direction but mine, or what do we got going?
So the sheriff says, Miss Hill, could you excuse us for a moment? I'd like to tell your husband a dirty joke. I mean, that's very Texas of somebody. Excuse me, little lady, could you move aside? I want to say something bad. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, I can see that happening. Peggy's like, Sheriff, if this is about the investigation, I assure you, you can speak freely. My husband and I have no secrets between us. The sheriff pulls out a pack of cigarettes and goes, cigarette? She goes, oh, no, we do not smoke. He goes, that's smart. Filthy habit. Say, could I trouble you for a light? Hank says, I could look in the house. He goes, oh, never mind. I got this here silver lighter. And he pulls out that HRH lighter. He goes, found it in Debbie's apartment. Got the initials HRH on it. Say now, what's your middle name? Hank says, Rutherford. He goes, right. HRH. So unless His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales stopped by Sunday night for a smoke, Hank says, okay, the lighter it's mine. It was a gift from Miss Elizabeth Strickland.
Now the King of England.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
That's right. It took me a second because I thought you were saying that Elizabeth Strickland was the King of England.
Yes, she is.
Peggy says, I know all about Miss Liz. As I said, I know everything about my husband. Hank gets a cigarette from the sheriff and lights it. And she looks a little perplexed. And the sheriff goes, so you know about your husband's relationship with Debbie? Peggy's like, What relationship? Hank says, I had no relationship with Debbie. Peggy says, Sheriff? He goes, if I may. And he pulls out that tape and starts to play it. On the tape, we hear Hank say, Debbie threatened to tell my wife that we had sexual relations. And then he cuts it off. He looks at both of them and he goes, well, I'm sure you folks have plenty to talk about. Y'all have a nice day.
That's
holy crap. That's a big bomb to drop on somebody.
Not only is it a big bomb, it's like it just because Peggy is not very intelligent. So him playing that, immediately Peggy's not going to think contextually of anything. She's not going to try to think of what it was even the context was.
She doesn't care. It's whatever's in front of her.
It's whatever's in front of her. So here we go.
So she says, he says, you guys have a nice day. Hank immediately turns to her and goes, I didn't sleep with Debbie. I know how my lighter got in her apartment, and I already told you about being in the bathtub with a naked Ms. Liz. Peggy says, did you see her breasts? And then you hear,
damn, Peggy.
And then you hear Con from the side.
Hey, Charlie Manson.
Hey, Charlie Manson. Can I get your autograph on this Sugarfoot napkin? I pulled out a dumpster. If you're a murderer, auction on eBay for big bucks. eBay got featured several times in the last couple episodes.
Yeah, eBay, 99? And then around the time it came out, 98, 99.
Hank says, eBay? Wait a minute. And then you kind of see a flashback. And Hank is kind of freaking out in a little bit of a drug haze, but he's starting to realize what happened. And you hear Gail say, damn, the eBay auction closed. I lost my Weevil. And then Hank kind of goes into a weird thing, and then he sees himself puking. He sees the lighter fall out. We come back to real life, and he goes, Con, you may have just made my autograph worthless. And so the next thing we see is at Casa Linda with Gail. Hank has shown up, and he goes, the auction for that purple Weeble Wobbler, what time did it close? Gail says, 6:58 p.m. Oh, you want to go in the chat room with Gene Roddenberry's wife? What?
What the hell?
Hank,
what the hell does...
It's like, it's just part of the same sentence. 6:58, oh, you want to go in the chat room with Gene Roddenberry's wife? Hank grabs him and says, listen to me. Debbie was killed at 6:45. I didn't inhale until 7 o'clock at the earliest. I couldn't have blacked out and killed her. She was already dead. Gail says, yeah, dude, you were here smoking pot with me. You can tell that to cops. I'll back you up. Oh, that's the last thing he wants.
Well, I guess in the grand scheme of things, smoking weed would be a lot less
ultimately,
worse.
That becomes better than being a murderer.
Being a murderer.
Yeah. So you see Hank leaving the apartment.
Oh, that's funny. I'll tell him you're good.
I'll back you up.
I'll back you up, yeah.
You see Hank leave the apartment, and then across the way at the donut shop, you see the sheriff watching him. Yeah. And he turns around and he sees Peyton, the Texas Ranger, leaving the In-N-Out, or the Get In, Get Out. He goes, leaving the Get In, Get Out so soon, Peyton? I'm sure there's some candy bars you hadn't questioned. Better take them 3 musketeers into separate rooms. Maybe one of them will crack. That's actually a pretty good joke. That's not bad for the sheriff, the small town sheriff. Peyton, the Texas Ranger, says, that's a good one, Sheriff. How did Hee-Haw ever let you get away? That's a pretty good response.
That is a good response.
Okay, now we're in the Hill Kitchen.
That's a real quick snip.
Yeah. We're in the Hill Kitchen, and we see a giant stack of pancakes.
You know what this reminds me of,
this
scene right here? It reminds me of like Andy Griffith, where Andy's walking up just, trying to investigate something going on.
Well, it's like Andy Griffith.
I'm here to smell those world famous buttermilk pancakes.
It's like Peggy. Andy Griffith. Yeah. It's like Columbo. It's like Murder, She Wrote. It's all that. Stuff, hey, how you doing, buddy? Did you kill somebody? That kind of thing. They just work it into the conversation.
That's an awful nice pie you
That's
got
an
there.
awful nice pie.
It doesn't happen to have fingers in it now, does it? I can't eat fingers.
I can't eat fingers.
It reminds me of that scene in Fried Green Tomatoes where they kill Frank Bennett and they chop him up and they feed him to that investigator from Georgia, and he goes, that's some of the best barbecue I've ever had.
Barbecue.
And he sat there and ate like half that guy's body while he was sitting there eating.
So we're in the Hill Kitchen, and you see the big stack of pancakes. And I wrote down here that the sheriff just comes right in their house. He comes right through. He opens up the glass door and just comes right in.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, do I smell Peggy Hill's old-fashioned buttermilk grill cakes? How does he even know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Yeah.
Peggy says, Sheriff.
It's around town.
Sheriff. Yeah, I bet it does. Sheriff, now I'm sure you did not come all this way just to smell Peggy Hill's old-fashioned buttermilk griddle cakes. They have to say the whole thing.
They have to because it's a commercial.
Old-fashioned buttermilk griddle cakes.
It's a commercial.
He goes
for our new restaurant we're opening. We're opening a King of the Hill themed restaurant featuring Peggy Hill's old-fashioned
pancakes and Brown Betty. That's all you can get there.
Brown Betty.
Sheriff says guilty. Speaking of which, Mr. Hill, Debbie's roommate Gail, has got an interesting alibi for the night of the murder. Says he was with you sparking up a J. Peggy's in English, please. He goes, lighten up a J. What?
Yeah.
How is that different?
It's not any different, yeah.
Peggy's like, getting high? He said that? Well, now you have a second crime to investigate, Sheriff, the attempted assassination of my husband's character. Bobby says, how dare you? My dad would never use drugs. I said good day, Sheriff. Well, you didn't say it the first time, but sure. The sheriff goes, Mr. Hill? Hank says, the boy's right. I would never smoke pot. He goes, yeah, you're square as a block of wood. But this Gale fella, he's from up north. Hair down to his butt crack and a layer of filth that just don't wash off. And now that I've talked to you, I know that he's just a liar who's got no alibi. He's from up north. That's his biggest crime.
He's
right
from
there.
up north.
From up north.
Well, that's a thing, though.
So I know.
That's a theme in some of them Andy Griffith episodes where some guy's driving through town and he's a shady character driving through town.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a shoe salesman from up north and he ends up being, trying to rob people and stuff like that. It's just such
it's insane.
Such a weird thing, yeah.
All right, so now it's night.
And a layer of filth that just don't wash off.
Just won't wash off.
Harsh, yeah.
Yeah, Hank is setting the table for dinner, and you can see Bobby and Peggy over there making Country Time lemonade. She's scooping it out of the big thing and putting it in the pitcher. And Luann comes running in. They're arresting the murderer on TV. It's a woman. And Bobby's like, who is it? And they all run in there to the TV. Hank says, a woman? And then he looks at the TV, sees Gail in handcuffs, and he goes, that's not a woman. That's Debbie's roommate. Luann, nuh-uh, her name is Gail.
That's terrible.
The sheriff on the TV, you hear him go, I've never had a homicide go unsolved in Heimlich County, and my record stands intact, 2 for 2. So there's only been 2 murders.
There's only been 2 murders.
And this one ends up not being a murder. Hank says, but Gail couldn't have done it. He was, and then Bobby's like, he was what, Dad? Hank's like, nothing. So he starts backing away, and he sits down on the couch, and you can tell he's super depressed.
Yeah, this also shows kind of a little bit of shittiness out of Hank. He's gonna let Gail take the heat for as long as he did.
I think that's what he's struggling with, right? Yeah. Here's the shitty part, right? Peggy and Bobby and Luann are still watching the TV, and Peggy starts, come on, show Peggy Sugarfoot in the background. Show Peggy Sugarfoot in the background. Show Peggy Sugarfoot in the background. Yes! Yeah. And then they show it, and she's so excited. And that's the second break. We'll take that, and we will be right back. Hey, Rusty, did you know that you could be putting oil and chemicals in your coffee?
No, I didn't know that.
I mean, I love coffee creamer, but I don't think I've ever turned a bottle around to actually see what's inside. You know, recently I did, and I found out many of my favorite creamers, like especially the one my wife used to use, they contain ingredients I would never intentionally add to my coffee cup, like canola oil, dipotassium phosphate, whatever that is.
Terrible.
Artificial flavors. I can't take artificial flavors a lot of the time.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm good on any flavoring.
They taste gross.
I don't like flavors in my coffee. I like the earth and flavor of coffee.
I mean, I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. I do love it. I just I don't like all that crap in my coffee, right?
Yeah, no, it does that.
So let me tell you about Laird Superfoods then. They have better ingredients, amazing taste, and functional benefits. Laird Superfood creamers are crafted from the highest quality, all-natural, real food ingredients. All Laird products are sustainably sourced and thoroughly tested to ensure that you're incorporating the cleanest, finest fuel into your routine. Now, they're all natural. They've got whole food ingredients. They contain naturally occurring MCTs from coconut oil. And everybody tells you coconut oil is good for you. Mm-hmm. There's no artificial flavors, no colors, no additives, no sugar from highly refined corn syrup. So that's a big deal right there. If you take one thing you do every day and make it better, Laird developed his creamer himself to stay powered for a day on the waves. He was a big wave surfer, Laird Hamilton was, and he needed a morning fuel that could allow him to spend the entire day chasing the ultimate wave. So he made this creamer, and it's crazy, crazy good. Laird sources high-quality plant-based ingredients globally and puts an emphasis on U.S. sources whenever possible. They aim to source responsibly and sustainably and believe that the food you consume should be as good for the earth as they are for you. They have honest and transparent products and labels. If you try it, you won't go back. They have functional superfood creamers, instant lattes, and prebiotic greens. They have a variety of snacks and supplements full of wholesome plant-based ingredients to keep you charged for wherever life takes you. So to get a deal on Laird Superfoods, I need you to go to zen.ai, BWAAA, King of the Hill. So that's zen.ai/BWAAA, King of the Hill. And your offer code there is BWAAA. So Laird Superfoods makes a better creamer that keeps you powered all day, and it's better for you, the earth, and your coffee. What do you say, Rusty? You want to go get some coffee?
Coffee.
Hey, Rusty?
Yeah.
Did you know that dehydration is the leading cause of daytime fatigue?
Oh, no.
I don't know about you, but like 2:30, 3 o'clock, I just hit a wall almost every day. I was shocked to learn that even mild dehydration can cause headaches, muscle weakness, brain fog, but luckily there's a cure.
Oh, there is?
Actually, I should have said there's a solution. It's called Cure. Cure Hydration. The Cure Hydration is an oral rehydration solution, or ORS, that contains the perfect balance of electrolytes. We know how important that is because plants crave it.
Super important.
And glucose to help your body absorb water and rehydrate quickly. The formula is made with all natural ingredients like coconut water, powder, and pink Himalayan salt. Whoopee. And it is free from artificial flavors, sweeteners, and preservatives. Cure Hydration is vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO.
That makes it a great option for anyone with dietary restrictions and preferences. The packets that they give you, they're convenient. They're easy to use. You just mix them with water and drink. They're perfect for on-the-go, travel, or anytime you need quick hydration. Hydration is more than just drinking water, Rusty. It is, that's what Lauren Picasso, a lifelong endurance athlete, discovered as she struggled to stay hydrated no matter how much water she drank. I've known people like that. My wife drinks so much water, it's crazy. Lauren found Cure, a science-backed electrolyte drink mix to make hydration easy for everyone. Cure believes that hydration should be simple and effective, but also clean and natural. That's why they only use the highest ingredients and quality plant-based stuff to avoid any artificial or harmful additives. They're committed to transparency and honesty. All of their ingredients are clearly listed on their website and packaging, and they're always happy to answer any questions or concerns. So are you ready to combat dehydration?
Absolutely.
You can try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use your code
BWAAA. Sorry, I blanked.
You're good. For 20% off your order. Try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use our special code
BWAAA
for 20% off your order. Your coupon will be activated at checkout. Try Cure Hydration. Stop drying out.
All right, and we are back. Now we're in the alley with the guys, and Hank says, I'm not so sure this Gale, is it? I'm just not so sure he's the right guy who did the murder. And Dale says, well, now you're just talking crazy, Hank. The sheriff arrested him. That means he's guilty.
He's guilty.
He goes, and then Bill says, or Bill said that. I'm sorry. He said the sheriff arrested him. It means he's guilty. Dale says, Bill's right. And then Bill again says, I should know. I've served on 4 juries, and we did our job. 4 convictions. That's not how that works.
That's
but okay.
not how that works. That's not a good. That's not something I would openly admit.
Hank says, it is not your job as a juror to just convict. Bill's like, is 2. And that's it. That's the whole exchange.
2, yeah.
Is 2.
Is 2.
All right, we're back at Sugarfoot's, and there's now a banner on it that says back under former management. And they've taken the Peggy's part down. The sheriff with everybody's in the freaking room, by the way, with the exception of Redcorn and Nancy. They're not in there, and Con and them are not in there. But like all the people from Strickland, Bobby, Lou, everybody, Dale, Bill, yeah, everybody. And the sheriff stands up and goes, I just want to say thanks to Buck Strickland for throwing this case-closed dinner. Oh, the party's also a send-off to our good friend Texas Ranger Peyton, who was unable to solve the crime. Yeah. Boy, he gets a kick out of that.
Yeah, he does.
Bobby pipes up and goes, I hope Gale doesn't get off on some pothead technicality, right, Dad? And then Hank, he's feeling so guilty at this point. He goes, those technicalities have a name, Bobby. They're called the Bill of Rights. And then
Bill of Rights, son. Yeah.
And the sheriff, the shittiest thing the sheriff could say, he goes, he's got a right arm for them to stick a needle in.
Yeah.
Hank bangs on the table, and he's finally had enough of it. He goes, all right, that's enough. Gale did not kill Debbie. That's right. He's innocent, and I know that because at the time of the murder, Gale was with me. We were in Debbie's apartment, and like he said, we were smoking pot. And Peggy's just like, oh, my God. She goes, who are you, Hank Hill? And he goes, no. It was an accident. I didn't know it was pot, and God knows I didn't enjoy it. But the fact remains, Sheriff, you have the wrong man in your jail. Sheriff goes, oh, okay, well, then it was Buck. Just boom, then it was Buck. And then Buck's like, no, it wasn't me. It was Hank. Didn't you get the tape? What about the Hank name tag I put in the bushes? Damn, it just.
Yeah, it's just.
And then the sheriff's like, it wasn't Hank, it was you. He goes, nah, it wasn't. He goes, then it was Miss Liz. Nah, it wasn't. And he looks at Liz and he goes, all right, fine, it was me. I'm your man, Sheriff. This is Buck talking. The sheriff goes, you got the right to remain silent. And then the Texas Ranger, who's sitting down there so stoic and silent, finally starts speaking up. And he goes, if you people are just about finished, I'll tell you who killed Debbie. Debbie's phone record shows she called Mr. Hank Hill a short while before her death, which means she was home at 6 p.m. Now, what would she have seen if she looked out her window at 6 p.m.? Normally, she'd see Sheriff Mumford stuffing some Sugarfoot's ribs into his face, but that night she saw Mr. Buck and Ms. Liz Strickland entering the restaurant, which, according to the Sugarfoot's reservations book, occurred at, and then Bobby's like, 603 Mr. and 604 Mrs. Like he is on the case.
On it.
Texas Ranger says, seeing Buck and Miss Liz back together must have thrown that pretty little tank wipe into a jealous rage, so she went down to Sugarfoot's. And then Peggy says, Peggy Sugarfoot's at the time. We don't need to hear from you, Peggy.
No.
He goes, yeah. The point is, she went there to kill Buck Strickland with a 12-gauge shotgun she had stashed in her apartment. Then we get this flashback of Debbie in the dumpster with the shotgun. He says, so she climbed into the dumpster next to his Cadillac to lie in wait. Now sitting in a dumpster full of half-eaten barbecue can make you hungry. And sure enough, I don't think it works that way.
I like this right here.
He goes, sure enough, Debbie went across the street to the get in, get out. And then we see like the black and white video store or the video footage from the store.
The CCTV footage.
And Debbie's just like, she's got the shotgun right there
in her hand.
And she's just paying for whatever she's buying.
Just getting what she's getting.
Paying for her 99-cent nachos.
Welcome to Texas.
Woof.
I imagine in the 90s, like nobody's going to question you back then.
He goes, according to the store's security videotape, and a written deposition from Mr. Freddie Hakimi, she purchased a big gulp and a 99-cent nacho plate. By buying them together, she saved 23 cents. Bobby's like, my God, that is one heck of a deal. He continues. He says, when Debbie returned to the dumpster, she saw Mr. Strickland's car and assumed he was still there. What she didn't know was that the Stricklands had already left together in Miss Strickland's car, having reconciled physically in a storeroom and again in the meat locker and once more in the slop sink. The slop sink. They just kind of look at each other and they're like, we love each other. And then we get the flashback of Debbie trying to climb into the dumpster. He goes, she had difficulty juggling the three items as she attempted to negotiate her way back into the dumpster. She put the gun in first. She wouldn't let go of that junk food, and that was the source of her demise. For Debbie climbed into that dumpster, her foot accidentally tripped on the hammer on the gun, and then you see, and the dumpster lid closes. And then it comes back to
it's odd that they called that suicide. I think that's weird.
It's not.
That the TV ratings would call that. It's just an accidental death.
And so he says, so
odd.
Debbie Grunn's killer was Debbie Grun.
Debbie Grun.
And then Miss Liz, oh, Buck, I'm so relieved. Why, I thought it was you. Buck's like, yeah, I would have done it too, Miss Liz. I'd have done it for you. Of course, I thought you did it. That's why I planted the shotgun shell in Hank's truck to protect you. Liz says, you planted evidence from me? He's like, yeah. She goes, oh, Sugarfoot.
Oh,
he says, oh, sweets. And then they both just and start doing the baby talk.
Yeah.
And Strickland, he's, sorry about that whole frame up there, Tonto. I was under a lot of stress talking to Hank. And Hank's like, yeah, okay. I guess if my mistress had been murdered and my wife were a suspect, I guess I let you down, son, doing drugs like that when I've always told you not to, talking to Bobby. Bobby says, if I did something like this, you'd punish me. Maybe I should be able to punish you. Hank's like, oh, okay. Well, son, what's my punishment? Am I grounded? Bobby's like, no, that's too easy. You can't mow the lawn for 1 week.
Oh,
and he goes, oh, come on, son. It was an accident. He goes, you want to go for 2?
Isn't that all it takes? Is about a week? Like, he could just wait a week and then mow. Who mows more than once a week?
I think everybody on Rainy Street, with the exception of Bill.
You know what I want to do? What I've seen would look like a really good yard. There was this guy who had harvested somewhere like 80 to 120, something like that. I can't remember the exact number. Different species of wild plants and wild stuff from his local area. Yeah. And did his whole yard like that instead.
Oh wow! And I want one of those rock front yards, like in New Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't want to F with it anymore.
Yeah, I don't want anything.
So that is it. That's the credits. After the credits, we do hear Bobby say, I said good day, Sheriff.
I said good day, Sheriff.
But that's it. Great episode.
Yeah,
nice little wrap up. We got introduced to a few new characters. It was wonderful. So tell them where they can find us, Rusty.
You can find us at bwaaakoth.com. That's got some stuff there. And then you can go to roguemedianetwork.com/bwaaakoth. You can also find this episode on youtube.com/@bwaaakoth, as well as all of our season 4 seasonal episodes. If you want to go get that quick. And then you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/bwaaakoth, and go over there and support us. Right now, all we have is a support option. Yeah. But there'll be some stuff.
There'll be some stuff eventually. Right now, it's all about support. And anybody that's supporting us, we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, we do a lot.
So just to kind of tease Friday, we're going to talk to Anthony, Super Studebaker, who has some of the King of the Hill books. So we're going to talk about those books.
Well, before we get out of here, I'm just going to tell a quick story from the week. So I had to pick up a sparkling water delivery from a warehouse in Houston, And when I was picking it up, I had to call the warehouse guy. Well, when I call people's phone, if you have a caller ID app or something like that, it'll pop up as Rusty Shackelford is calling you.
Sure.
Well, I dropped the water off, left, and I'm on my way home from Houston, and I get a text message that says, "Shasha, pocket sand." And it was that guy. He had been scrolling through his phone, and he was like,
"Oh,
what
that's
the
fantastic."
He said, "Who in the hell was Rusty Shackelford?" I remember that. And it was my phone call. So I was like, "Well, who is this?" And he was like, "Oh, man, you just picked up the water from me. I thought it was funny seeing Rusty
really
Shackelford in there." And I was like, "Well, you could tell all your friends you met the real Rusty Shackelford today." And then I told him about the podcast and stuff, too, because he didn't know about our podcast.
That's awesome.
So
took a trip to Denver for a podcast movement conference and mentioned us many times there. I'm thankful to anybody that was there because I would hand cards to people and a lot of them were like, "Oh yeah, we've heard of you," which was fantastic. So
that's great.
Any new listeners out there that I picked up in Denver, welcome. And we will be back on Friday. We'll talk that ain't right Friday about some King of the Hill books with Anthony, our super fan. And that's it.
Wimatan, yay.
Wimatan, yay, indeed. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.